Could you be the next victim of whiplash? We'll find out about one method of dealing with it. Then, leave your everyday headaches at home, throw away your pills, and take a cruise on the Noordam. What does soap opera heartthrob John Denos say about becoming a star?
It's all on the Nola Joy Special with Nola Joy Carello.
You could become the next victim of whiplash. Imagine living every day with excruciating headaches or becoming dependent upon drugs to mask some of the suffering. There is a choice besides learning to live in constant fear of when and where pain will strike. We are going to meet Dr. Paul S. Peterson, noted Palmer College graduate chiropractor. Dr. Peterson, what is whiplash?
Whiplash is a term commonly used by people to describe a particular type of injury, most often injury to the neck, but many times to the low back also. It often occurs in an automobile accident, but not exclusively in that. It can occur in, say, sports injuries, for example.
Like football?
Like football, yes. In a car accident, there's usually a force applied from one direction and then a counter force the other way, which may cause the person's neck, let's say, to whip backwards and then again forwards. If they were struck from behind, if they struck something ahead, another car or a pole or a tree, something to that effect, then of course the reverse would be true. They'd be thrown forwards first and then again the counteracting whip backwards. If it's a sports injury, like when I used to take care of a football team at Palmer College, if there's a tackle, sometimes it could cause the neck to whip backwards or vice versa, depending on which direction the force came from. So it's a particularly serious type of injury, especially when you think of the head being approximately the weight of a light bowling ball placed on top of a fairly thin structure of the neck and somewhat delicate structure. And particularly if you don't see the vehicle coming behind you, and if you're at a stop and another vehicle smashes into you from the behind, the relaxed neck, the weight of the head quite rapidly and quite forcefully thrusts the head backwards.
Do you have something you could show us on what the patient would be complaining of, then, like a pinched nerve?
Yes, I have a model here that perhaps I could demonstrate. This is a very accurate replica of the spine. Here we're looking at it from the behind. This would be the pelvis, the large hip bones on either side, low back, middle back, neck, and even the base of the skull that forms articulation with the top vertebra of the spine. What we look for in the whiplash type injury, many of the things are seen from the side. Again, remembering the force was introduced either from the front or the back, causing a sudden whipping one direction or the other, in the case of the neck. Or in the case of the low back, if they just have a lap belt, seat belt around the waist, the body is thrust forwards, puts quite a severe thrust or jerking on the low back. The green structures on this model represent the nerves that are coming out of the spine, and it's on both sides. They come out of both sides of the body. Those particular nerves come out of openings, again, formed between two adjacent vertebrae with this felt pad representing a disc that acts like a spacer to keep the bone apart, to keep the hole nice and open for the nerve. If the vertebra should slip, in fact, I'll have you observe that opening. I'll demonstrate as a slip or twist the vertebra, it can actually begin to close down the opening and pinch the nerve in there. Well, the typical medical doctor, when seeing a whiplash type case, he's of course going to look for any bruises, any cuts, any obvious wounds, and of course is concerned with muscle spasm or any possible fractures to the spine. So when they x-ray the patient's spine, that's what they usually look for, any fractures, arthritis, tumors, that type of thing. And of course they can give the patient some muscle relaxants for the muscle spasm and some painkillers for the pain that they're experiencing. And that works to a degree, as long as the pain is there and the muscle tissue, as it begins to heal, then the pain will decrease. And as the ligament begins to repair, again, more pain will decrease. But if the vertebra is still wrenched out of position and still pinching the nerve, you're still going to have those effects. And that's a specialty that I, as a chiropractor, have to attend to. If there's a pinched nerve, the pills aren't going to move the vertebra off the nerve and remove that pinching on the nerve. So that's a specialty, a particular type of treatment that is needed to be done by a chiropractor.
Why is whiplash so easily misunderstood by the medical profession?
Well, I believe it's somewhat in the specialty of training. As I mentioned just a few minutes ago, the medical doctor is going to look for obvious bruises, cuts, and muscle spasms, fractures to the bone, arthritis, that type of thing. where we as chiropractors not only are trained to look for that and help treat those kind of problems, but also we look to the spine to see if there is a misalignment, a distortion, a vertebra wrenched out of position to an extent where it's starting to pinch the nerves. So that's our particular specialty, is to see if there's something affecting the nervous system, which in turn controls all other organs and parts of the body and adapts your body to the changing environment. So we go beyond the typical medical care for a whiplash case and try to restore the spine back to the way it was before the accident. Because if we don't, you tend to have more degeneration starting in the joint. The patient may not experience it for months to years after the accident, but it often does occur if you don't have a chiropractor realign the vertebra, take all the irritation off the nerves, to realign the vertebra as it's sitting on the disc, so the disc carries the weight evenly across the whole surface like it's designed to. So it's a different specialty. We work on the spine 100% of the time, treat nearly all types of spinal problems.
Why do some people believe that chiropractors are members of a mystical cult?
Well, there used to be quite a few people believe that. It, fortunately, is not very many anymore. I think it began from quite a number of years ago when chiropractic was very young, back in the last of the 1800s and early 1900s. A chiropractic premise stated that the nervous system controls all other organs and parts of the body, and you alter the nerve supply of those parts, it begins to cause a dysfunction in those parts, which lowers their resistance and can make them more susceptible to malfunction, which we call disease today. So the chiropractic student says, well, all right, using deductive reasoning, if there's something altering the nerve supply to that part of the body, causing a disease there, if we correct the nervous system, restore the normal nerve flow to those parts start functioning normally, health returns. So chiropractic deals with the cause of disease. And some exuberant students would then say, well, the chiropractic can cure anything, which is not true. Yeah. But that word got around, and before they really understood the nervous system, in fact, did control everything else in the body and was the supreme system, we got kind of branded as cults. But luckily now, with more research that's been done on chiropractic, proving our premises, later on the regular scientists determined that the nervous system, in fact, was the supreme system, controlled everything else in the body, and adapted the body to the changing environment. Like I say, we fit more into the mainstream of science, and so not many people think of that. There's still a holdover. Some people, have heard that and believe it, but those people really look into chiropractic and look into our education and what we're doing. Most often don't say that.
What about, people who perhaps are in pain, but maybe they haven't suffered a whiplash? Would you recommend that they should maybe see a chiropractor on a regular basis?
Well, a general rule I'd say a patient could apply here is that understanding the chiropractor is the specialist of the spine. We work on a spine 100% of the time. If they have spinal problems, it's logical that a chiropractor would be probably the first doctor they should seek to determine if it is a chiropractic case or not. Or if they have some nerve-related symptoms, such as a pinched nerve. A lot of people kind of have an idea what a pinched nerve is, or a catch in one of the joints, to say the hip joint or sacroiliac joint, or a stiffness in the neck, or a catch in the neck. They wake up in the morning. Sure, that's an obvious chiropractic case we work on all the time. Sciatic cases, the pain radiating from the hip into the buttocks down the leg. I mean, typical cases we see all the time. The trouble neck, shoulder, and arm, classic chiropractic cases. Some of the other nerve-related ones, as I mentioned, the numbness, the tingling in the arms, hands, fingers, or even the legs and toes. That's a nerve-related problem. At least the chiropractor should examine that patient to see if it's something that's pinching or irritating the nerves. Because if it is, really not other form of treatment is going to correct that all the way. And there are others. I mean, like I said, we deal with the nerves that go to the internal parts of the body too, so they can have some changes in the internal organs. And often people do not associate that with chiropractors. They think of chiropractors as being good back doctors, which we are. But really that's like thinking of a telephone lineman as being a good pole climber. Well, he is. The reason, because the wires are up there, you see. We're good back doctors because the nerves are in there, and that's the most common place to pinch a nerve. If the most common place to pinch a nerve was in the knee, we'd be good knee doctors, you see.
How do chiropractors fit into the evolving healthcare system?
Oh, interesting question. I'd say we fit in very, very favorably. I think you've gathered from my discussion so far that basically we deal with the cause of dysfunction, like a television set. If that television set is unplugged, I don't care what you do to the TV set, it's not going to work. First, you want to see if it's plugged in, getting its normal electrical supply. The same is true with parts of the body. First, you want to see if it's getting its normal electrical supply, which is the nervous system and the nerve supply. So that's a logical approach to check that first. Then if it is getting its normal supply, then check that part and see if there's something malfunctioning in the part. But as you stop and think about the healthcare delivery systems today, there's a lot of chaos out there. Medicine is specialized so much. They've got a heart specialist, kidney specialist, reproductive specialist, eye specialist, so on and so forth. the poor patient that has a general complaint, he's totally confused where to go. You know, do I go to this kind of specialist? Do I go to that kind of specialist? Do I go to my chiropractor? Do I go to an osteopath? Do I go to a psychiatrist? Do I go to an acupuncturist? Where do I go? You see? So we're kind of taking over the role of the general practitioner, the switchboard, so to speak, for health problems.
Do you feel you're being resented by the medical profession then?
Oh, I suppose some. I mean, obviously we're competition, you know, because we're taking over a lot of general health problems and doing things like that. But it's going to come about, but really the only reason any of us are in business are for sick people.
Thank you, Dr. Peterson. If you believe you have been a victim of whiplash or need more information, you may call the Chiropractic Information Bureau of Sacramento at 482-0806. Some people say that the ocean air will keep you healthy. Join me as we sail under the Golden Gate Bridge. That is right after this. My guide for a cruise on the dashing, sleek cruise ship Noordam.
Nola Joy, let's escape the everyday pressures of the world.
Johnny, that sounds great, but right now it's time to share some important travel tips with you. Before you ever leave shore, remember to book your cruise at least 6 months or a year in advance to secure your favorite cabin. Check on all passports, visas, shots, and insurance. To help eliminate those headaches over money, take traveler's checks. Let's go aboard! Boarding a ship for the first time is an exciting experience. Meeting the captain is too.
I hope you had a nice time on board my beautiful Noordam.
I imagine it's about as beautiful as you ever sail on a day like this, isn't it?
So far, it was the most beautiful day we had here. Because the other trips, it was still a little bit cool. And that's why we're wearing blue uniform, of course, because normally when it's getting warmer weather, we shift over to our whites.
Captain, I'm always concerned about safety for the passengers. How many fire alarms do you have on this ship?
Well, the ship is separated in all kinds of sections, of which we have an alarm panel on the bridge here. And in this system, we have 107 push buttons, so hand fire alarms. And besides that, as the ship has no sprinkler system, it's being built in a special way using a lot of unflammable material. We are allowed to have just heat and smoke detectors, and that numbers to 2019.
How many passengers can be accommodated with lifeboats and life rafts?
The total accommodation in life rafts and lifeboats on this ship is for 1,940 people.
I know you have some very sophisticated electronic gear. Could you tell us a little bit about your sophistication and your radar?
Well, of course, as the ship is only 10 months old, it took her about 1.5 years for her to be being built in France. We have the latest of the modern equipment that was existing in the market. And our radar system, we have two systems, especially one for import, a river radar, which shows you very clear the direction small, even small, very small boats are heading. And also we use them when, for instance, here in San Francisco, it's dense fog. We still can see the dock very good. And besides that, at sea, we have a special anti-collision radar. It's a German-made radar, and that system is possible on computers to compute 70 targets at the same time, giving us the shortest distance of approach, the time when it will happen, and also if some target comes into a danger area that we can put on that radar.
The captain is responsible for running the ship smoothly. Others make sure your cruise is enjoyable. Hey, Johnny, what's next?
Well, next we're going to hear right on board from the Richard Ihara Orchestra.
Peter, why do so many people prefer cruising versus flying?
Well, cruising is, of course, something very special. You see various ports in a very short time span. And apart from that, you don't have to unpack all the time. You have your own cabin. You sit there and you have your entertainment daily. You know your way around, and you do not end up in strange areas all the time.
Please stay with us. We'll be right back with some more cruising. Brian, what does the Noordam have to offer for some very active and some very inactive passengers?
Well, we provide a program, a daily program, which each passenger receives every evening with all the information for the following day. And that program contains a lot of information. Everything to do with the ship is coordinated and presented in that program, and that also includes activities. Apart from activities, we have 3 channels of television. So for the inactive, you can sit and watch a movie or even stay in your cabin and watch television. Inactive, I think, on board a ship means probably dividing your day into 3 sections: the dining room, sunbathing, and sleeping. That's for the inactive. For the active, we have everything going up to something really active like volleyball, which is very popular on board the ship, to things which are not quite so active like clay pigeon shooting and card games and things like that. Those are the sort of less active activities. We also have a very nice jogging track here, which is 5 laps to the mile around the deck. Plus, of course, a superb gymnasium, probably the best afloat. But then there's everything in between, a whole gamut of activities and lectures and programs that people can attend.
What is so unique about the Noordam's historical interior design?
Well, I think that one of the unique things about this ship is that the designers have managed to create a technological and ecological wonder with regards to the mechanical side of the ship, the operations side of the ship, and yet they've managed to build into it the atmosphere, the ambience of what an ocean liner used to be. In the days when I first went to sea, which was the early 1960s, I've been at sea for 22 years, and I can remember the oak panels and things like that. But here we have a ship now, which is a comfortable ship to sail on, and yet is filled with, well, between $2 and $3 million worth of antiques, as well as the oak panels and the beautiful furniture as well, and the nice artwork. This, I think, creates a tremendous atmosphere on board the ship, which gives us this very modern ship with an atmosphere which reminds us of the days gone by.
Peter, what about other facilities? Like I'm thinking about a beauty salon or boutiques or even a hospital.
Oh, sure. We have a fully equipped hospital on board of the ship, even with an emergency room, with 3 nurses who are fully aware how they have to handle the situations in emergency rooms. You mentioned the boutiques. We have shops on board. We have a beauty parlor on board. You can have a massage, a sauna. Just as Brian just mentioned, we also have a fully equipped gymnasium. There are a lot of other things you can do.
Join us on deck under a dazzling blue sky. When planning your cruise, remember, fun is foremost, fashion second.
Cruises offer comforts of a fancy resort.
Johnny, you will be entertained and pampered. To save money and time, cruise during the non-peak season. How many loves can you find on a cruise ship? Next, soap opera star John Denos will reveal his great love. Millions of fans know John Denos as Joe Blair, the quick-witted photographer of The Young and the Restless, a top-rated daytime television drama. As a former Sacramentan who made good, what is your secret for success in being so popular?
I just knew you were going to ask me the toughest question. Formula for success? Well, I don't know. I guess just love and doing it and, you know, finding the thing you want to do most in your life and going for it.
What advice would you give the young, starving actors and actresses of today who dream about becoming the next Clark Gable or the next Elizabeth Taylor?
These are the best questions. What would I tell them? Gee, I don't know. I think that Clark Gable and Elizabeth Taylor, I mean, Elizabeth Taylor, of course, is still with us, but Clark Gable isn't, so, you know, we already had him. I think we need new people, new, you know, interesting. I don't think anyone would want to fashion themselves after another actor in the past, but I would say that any actor should study their craft.
What about education? How important is that?
Oh, sure. get your degree as a doctor or an attorney first and then try. No, education is very important, of course. I mean, have you ever met a dumb actor?
We all want to be loved and respected for our work, but sometimes the television and movie critics can be cruel. How do you personally deal with their criticism?
I don't listen to it.
You also find time to donate your talents to various charities like the Special Olympics.
Absolutely.
Why have you taken such an interest in Sacramento Stanford Home for Children?
Well, because I was born in Sacramento, and I went to school here. And I think when I used to have a girlfriend that lived here.
Outside the glamour world of your soap opera, The Young and the Restless, I know your special love or your great love is photography.
I've always been interested in photojournalism, more so than commercial cosmetics or that sort of thing, which I've also done. There's more life in it, you know, it's much more spontaneous, more interesting. It's kind of like just going through the Stanford home and meeting these children. They're terrific.
You've had opportunities to do photo reports on prisons in Ontario.
Well, I found it very interesting in Canada, which is what we're talking about,
yes.
Right? That the institutions are very modern and very progressive. They look more like Holiday Inns, as a matter of fact.
John, what happens after the theater lights are turned off and there's no more applause? How do you personally deal with the loneliness or just your private moments?
The loneliness?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm not very lonely, you know. I like spending a lot of time alone. I read and catch up on a lot of things that I can't do when there are people around.
You also do a lot of jogging.
Yeah, I try to do 5 miles a day, as a matter of fact. Yeah, and I do a lot of thinking when I'm running.
Thank you, John Denos. It's been a pleasure having a chance to interview you today, and you have a great day.
My pleasure.
Okay,
Thank you very
take care.
much, Nola.
Hi, I'm Nola Joy Carello with Johnny Biggers, president of Safetyville 200 Club. Johnny, what is so important about Safetyville USA?
Nola Joy, Safetyville USA is a special youth-oriented project representing the ultimate goal of teaching safety awareness to young boys and girls, and thus significantly reducing accidents among elementary school children.
Johnny, one of the programs taught at Safetyville USA is bicycle safety, and it's time for more boys and girls to meet Susie Safety.
Hi, I'm Susie Safety.
Wow! Boys and girls, many young people like yourself are killed or injured each day while riding their bikes.
No kidding. Sounds like something should be done. You'd better believe it.
There's more to riding a bike than balance.
At Safetyville USA, boys and girls will learn more about bicycle safety. We want your children to stay alert and alive. Remember, your bike is a means of transportation, not a toy. Be safe. Call 3668.